2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
Coming out isn't always easy. It's not always easy to tell people you're gay, or that awkward discussion that you have to have. It was very not easy having that awkward discussion to America, because you were basically saying I'm gay to everybody at one time, so you felt very vulnerable. And then on top of that, at your lowest part of that vulnerability, if you get booed by the people back in the States while you're serving your country, it definitely hurt. I mean, it definitely felt like, what did I do wrong? Then I think what gutted me worse was Rick Santorum's answer, because his answer basically reduced my 26-year honorable career that's highly decorated to sex.
I would say any type of sexual activity has absolutely no place in the military, and the fact that they're making a point to include it as a provision within the military, that we are going to recognize a group of people and give them a special privilege in DONA and removing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I think tries to inject social policy into the military, and the military's job is to do one thing, and that is to defend our country.
And then they all stood up and applauded that. And that was horrific to me. That was much more profound to me than the booing was. People will pick up the book probably trying to answer that question. Why did you ask it? Was it a gotcha question? And just trying to do that. I think that what they're going to find, though, is that a special privilege is not running around your own house and hiding pictures because soldier friends are coming over. That's something Rick Santorum's probably never had to do, or any of the candidates on this stage have probably never had to hide their pictures in their wallet or turn the phone down to a minimum volume so nobody could hear them. And I think that now I think that it's still relevant, because we're still having discussions of marriage equality. We're still trying to get the same rights that everybody else were guaranteed in the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, and we're fighting for that every day. And I think that it's always going to be relevant until LGBT people are treated equally.
What led you to write the book?
That's interesting. So the Army Public Affairs Officer had to engage with me on how to engage with the media. He said, Captain Hill, he said, I've got to disclose to you that my son just came out to me about a month ago. And he said, I've grown up macho my whole life. I've always grown up, macho and rough and tough. And he said, and I really don't know how to relate to my son right now. And it's really hard for me to try to relate to him after he's told me that. He said, but after listening to these stories that you've told me, he said, I feel like I know my son better. And I said, I'm going to blow you away. I said, your son grew up the same way you did. Society taught him the same thing about gay people that society taught you about gay people. Your son has to unlearn everything that he's ever thought about gay people before he can even understand himself. I said, now you understand your son better. And he looked at me and he said, man, if you ever write a book, he said, I'm going to buy this thing. And so he was the one that really put in my mind, the idea of putting this together in a book.
Tell us about who wrote the foreword for the book.
George Takei. I remember when he came out, I thought, oh my goodness, good for him, but I hope it doesn't kill his career. And I remember how good I felt on the inside, knowing, hey, somebody popular or famous is gay or whatever.
And then for both of you, what feedback have you received from the book?
It's been amazing. Stephen said parents reach out to him. Someone who has a 17-year-old son who gave her the book and said that Stephen was able to articulate what her son isn't old enough or capable of doing right now to understand where he is, how he's coming to terms with himself,
what he's going through.
Yeah, the feedback has been amazing.
What's the goal of the book? What do you hope for this book?
I'd like it to highlight the fact of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was just a toxic policy. It was bad. The Army, basically, 3 of the Army core values are honor, integrity, and courage. And how could you have an Army policy that tells you not to have honor, to lie, and not to be courageous? And I think that once it was repealed, I think people understand that. Why is that relevant now that it's been repealed? Because we have lawmakers right now that are arguing against people being able to be married and protect their families. There are things that are going on right now that people are making the same arguments that they made about not letting people serve their country. And I think by that book highlighting just that one part of it, it makes people really start to take it into other fields and understand what this is about. It's not, marriage equality is not an attack on anybody's religion. It's a protection of our family. It's a civil right. It's a civil marriage that we want to be able to protect ourselves. We have more rights on a military base in Ohio than we have in Ohio because marriage equality is not the law of the land. So hopefully that book will, people that are in the military can relate to the military part of it, but then you can also kind of relate it to other aspects of what's going on currently for LGBT people.